So, how's everyone doing today? We're going to go over the MAP oath training. This training is a requirement before every assessment. Please do your best to pay attention and follow along with me. Our learning intention for our time today is that we want to make sure that you know how to do test proctoring, how to ensure it's a valid and reliable data when assessing your students. The success criteria for understanding this includes many facets, especially testing logistics, teacher and proctor responsibilities, allowing accommodations, what accommodations are allowed and which ones are not, and knowing how to assign text-to-speech, which is the main accommodation for most of our students. Also, what retest criteria we're going to use this year, and how to find support if you need any help. So we're going to start with testing logistics. For MAP growth participation requirements, every student must be tested. It is required to test all students in MAP growth, all ALE students unless they have it specifically exempt from universal screening in their IEP, all emergent bilingual students, even if it's their first year or they're an unschooled refugee, must be tested. Any student who's absent for the day of the test must be tested on another day, so do your best to get those tested following. New students enrolled during the testing window, so even if they just got here, if there's enough time to test them, we need you to test them. All students must be tested, and if not, if you're exempting one because you're trying to avoid having that student count against you, that is not the way to be. So please be sure you test all students. What do they need to be tested on? For elementary, we're going to test in math, reading, and science, depending on what grade they're in. K through 1 will be tested in math and reading. 2 through 5 will be tested in math and reading using the 2 through 5 grade assessment. And 3 through 5 will also have the 3 through 5 science test. For math, it includes your advanced students on the math growth 2 through 5. If that changes, we will change that in our handbook. Secondary, we're going to test again math, reading, and science. We'll test all the way through English 2 using the Reading 6+ assessment. We'll test all the way through Algebra 2 and Geometry using a math assessment. And then finally, Biology will also be tested. If any of this change, we'll make a change in our handbook. The language test is optional, but it's available for grades 2 and up, but it's only available in English. When you're trying to measure growth, it's important to use the same language for the beginning and the end of year assessment. You need to record what test you give them at the beginning of the year and use the same assessment at the end of the year. The winter assessment is a good time to perhaps change it and try other assessments. This is a list of all the high school assessments that are required for resource classes. So these are resource class specific assessments. And if you have any problems or you need any questions, again, check the handbook or check with your special ed coordinator. The test is available in English and Spanish. For reading, we want you to test all monolingual classes. That includes middle school and high school assessments in the English test. The dual language classes are tested in Spanish. So the dual language classes, the bilingual, one-way, two-way, all of those are going to be tested in Spanish. English is optional, but strongly encouraged that you have data for both. In the end of the year test, you must test both English and Spanish for 4th and 5th grade. For math, again, you're testing in English in all your English classes. Dual language, you're going to test in whatever language is most proficient. You will not ever test math in both languages. You will only test in the most proficient languages for math. Science is available in English for grades 3 and up. And again, the language assessment is English only. If you have any questions about these, please check with your bilingual coach or the bilingual education leader.
Let's continue with what needs to be tested. The other is the reading fluency test. It is required for kinder, first, and second graders. The kinder students get testing in foundational skills. First graders will take foundational skills in the fall and winter, and the adaptive oral reading assessment in the spring. Second graders will take the adaptive oral reading assessment. For third grade, if a student scores in the 30th percentile or below on the English reading map test, then you will assign the adaptive oral reading assessment. That means the reading map test needs to be given first to third graders, and then depending on how they perform will determine if you assign the reading fluency adaptive oral reading assessment. You will do the same for those that tested in Spanish. Give the map growth first, and if they score in the 40th percentile or below, assign the adaptive oral reading assessment.
For 4th and 5th grade, it is determined by the reading star for did not meet. If they perform did not meet on reading star the previous school year, they will then be tested with reading fluency on the adaptive oral reading assessment. For secondary, the only grade level that's required to take the reading fluency test is the 7th grade. And again, it's determined by did they perform did not meet in 6th grade star. Those have been flagged for needing reading supports. On both of these, we need to inquire about what it is that they're struggling with. So if they did not meet on star assessment in grades 3, 4, and 7 from the prior year, then we will test them with the adaptive oral reading test. The testing windows are adjusted every year. There will always be a link to this on our webpage and in this self-paced course. I'll show you in a moment where that's at. So please check your testing windows and ensure that you are testing within the windows. So before I continue, let me show you where to find these links and other important links. In the course, the MAP Oath Training course, on the second page, we have some very important links at the bottom of the page, including this presentation that I'm using to present to you, which is this very bottom link. So if you click that link, it will show you this presentation, and then all the links will become live. Also, you have our testing windows right above that and our district handbook. You must make a 75 on this course to receive credit, and just watching this video will not give you all the answers. So you must review the test handbook, the district handbook for MAP testing, and the links from this presentation to be ready for the quiz at the end. So before we continue, pause the video and review the handbook and the presentation to this point, and then restart the video. So as a teacher or proctor, you need to understand your responsibilities, which is why we gave you a few moments to read the handbook and ensure that you understand all the different aspects of that. There's some important features that I want to be sure you know. So first off, you must prepare your students for MAP growth. You don't want to give them this test cold. You need to make sure they understand the purpose of the assessment and how they're being scored on this assessment. Most importantly, you need to practice with your students. So there is a script there for every grade level for practicing the assessment. So you can click this link in the presentation to review those. Also, the day of testing, there's also a script and some testing tips available for you. You need to provide them with the expectation of what to expect, explanation of what to expect. There is no time limit. It could take from 45 to 50 minutes to complete the test. If you're testing and everyone else is finished, you may condense your testing. Follow the guidance given to you by your MAP point of contact. It's normal not to know the answers. Please share that with the students. They're going to get about half the questions wrong, and that's okay. It's trying to figure out where they are right now. Explore the reading and math tools available with your students prior to testing. Share the videos that we have provided for us by NWEA. This link right here, if you click right here, will provide a link to those videos and some other information, including how to explore the tools and what to do to get ready for the test. All of this might take you 20-30 minutes of a class prior to testing. So take the time to do that. Also, this right here, this is a link to a practice test, and there's practice tests for all grade levels. The testing environment. It's important to provide an adequate and fair testing environment for all your students. For K1 and 2, you're going to be testing in small groups, no more than 6 students. You need to ensure that every student has a pair of working headphones and that morning testing is more recommended than testing in the afternoon. And from grades 2 and up, you can test whole group unless the accommodations say differently. Again, morning testing is highly recommended. You probably want to provide your students with information about what to do after they finish testing. And again, you must have working headphones for any students who need them for accommodations. Plus, all your second and third grade students should have text-to-speech available for them for the MAP growth math assessment. Again, working headphones is a requirement. Retest will not be allowed if the student does not have a working pair of headphones, because this is a teacher's responsibility to make sure they have this. If they decide not to use it, that is their choice. But retest will not be allowed because you did not provide them the appropriate accommodations. Testing environment. Please attach a testing do not disturb sign outside of your testing room. You do not need to take instructional materials down unless it's a direct source of answers, such as math tables, graphics of moon phases, water cycles. Those might need to be covered up, but don't worry about taking down posters. Please ensure that the desktops are clear of books, materials not needed for testing. Ensure students are separated from each other so that they may work without distraction and to prevent seeing each other's monitor. When you're starting a test session, it's important to write the session name on the board and password on the board. Help students log in. That is appropriate and very much needed for the younger grades. Ensure that each student has selected their name by verifying on each student's monitor. Just walk around and make sure it has their name on the top before you confirm their logging. The proctor must confirm each student in order to begin testing. The proctor must have a device or computer to monitor during testing, and they can review rapid guessing percentages. You must actively monitor during the test administration. Make sure they're not exiting the test and going to anything else. Make sure that they're awake and active. A trained administrator must be present in every testing room. Proctors must understand and confirm each eligible student has their appropriate supports provided. If they don't, pause the assessment and turn them on. Since MAP tests are untimed, students may work at their own pace, but proctors should monitor their progress. If a student spends too much time on a question, it is okay to prompt them to make their best guess and move on. All questions must be answered. If a student has a question about the directions or the procedures, including translations for those procedures, please provide them with that. Proctors are never allowed to translate test questions or selections except for sign language. They're never allowed to rephrase or add any additional information to the test questions. If they ask a question, just simply say, I can't answer that for you. Just do the best you can to move on. This slide will be very helpful. These are the steps that you need to provide if someone needs to take a break or if you have to go to recess or some other interruption. You can pause it for up to 25 minutes. You can suspend it for the rest of the day. Or if it's a separate day, you may resume testing. Please do not hit terminate unless there is a specific reason why, and check with your point of contact the best reason for that. Most of the time, there is no need to hit terminate. Just suspend it and test again the following day. This is confidential test material. You may view this test if necessary, but don't take any pictures or capture anything or share this on the web that is licensed material to NWEA. So please don't take any photos of this assessment. For accommodations, the teacher must ensure that every student has appropriate accommodations. If they do not have that, this is not a reason to retest this year. Each of these links are important. Please review these links before moving on. So pause this video and take the time to review each of these to ensure you have a clear understanding of what is and is not allowable, what is embedded and what is not embedded for your students. Okay, Students with documented needs include students with an IEP, with a 504 accommodation plan, with linguistic accommodation plans, and MTSS Tier 3 accommodation plans. When it said in those links, students with documented needs, it could include any of these. You, as the administrator of this assessment, or must administer this assessment in accordance with their IEP. You, as a proctor, need to make sure each student has the required accommodations. If you notice a student does not have the required accommodations, please pause or suspend the assessment and correct that error immediately. A retest will not be granted because of my failure or your failure to provide the appropriate accommodations. Also, you do not want to provide additional accommodations that is not required without legal documentation. And again, if you see a student using accommodations that they should not have, please pause or suspend their assessment, correct this, and then restart the assessment. Failure to do so would be considered a testing irregularity. When you assign text-to-speech, you need to be sure to assign it in the appropriate place in NWEA MAP. The text-to-speech option for the student with documented needs should be assigned under Embedded Accommodations section. It should say Embedded Accommodations, and you will assign the text-to-speech in this area. When you assign those accommodations on a reading test, please ensure that you do not check assets such as reading passages on a reading test, because obviously we do not want to help them with the reading because that's what they're there for. So you will not select this part on the reading test. A math test or a science test, that would be fine. You also do not select human reader because that does not provide the students the support they need. Either way, a retest will not be allowed because a teacher does not provide them the appropriate supports. It's not the student's fault that they were not giving the supports that they needed. Assigning text-to-speech on designated features section is used for example for students in second and third grade taking a math growth test. You will put that under embedded designated features for some students, which looks like this. Retest criteria. Retest can only be completed within the testing window. So be sure to have your testing schedule include a couple extra days at the end in case you need to request a retest. Teacher must ensure that the appropriate supports are provided. I know we just covered this, but I want to make sure that assets such as reading passage is not checked on a reading test. If a student is tested without the support to be provided, retest will not be allowed. Students will not have to retake the assessment because a teacher did not provide them the supports needed. Retests are not encouraged, even if the following criteria are met. Students do not do better the second time. So unless the proctors are confident that the student will have a significantly different outcome, please don't require them to retest. Remember, MAP assessments is just a dipstick in time, so it's not necessary. There are many criteria that could be submitted for a retest, although it's different prior to this year. So this year, you will not be able to provide, as we've mentioned several times, accommodations, a retest for not allowing or not providing or providing the wrong accommodations. Each of these links you to a specific slide for criteria for requesting a retest, including rapid guessing, students receiving assistance, a standard error measure of 5.5 or higher, meeting 3 other criteria, or a terminated test. Please pause the video and review each of those before moving on. Okay. When you want to submit a retest, you're going to go to Launchpad and locate the green folder for MAP testing. Select and submit a MAP retest ticket. It may take up to 24 hours. After you submit a retest ticket, if you need it happen right away, please email panda@neisd.net, and we will be at the ready to make the changes necessary so you can get tested right away. Seeking help. If you need help at any time, please first refer to this slide. It will help you with troubleshooting, pictures of what it looks like for the students, setting up a session, a quick start guide, the dual language options. Please be sure you refer to your bilingual coach, how to set up text to speech in the NWEA system. There's also 2 very handy videos at the bottom of this, including preparing the day for MAP or common student questions. This common student questions video would be a good one to share with your students. Who can help? The MAP, Campus MAP Testing Coordinator has been trained with many things, so they may be able to help you first. Then, submit a ticket for a retest request, or reach out for Panda if another issue arises. Finally, the NWE Help Desk ticket. You can chat with an agent or call them directly, but this cannot help you with retest. They will just direct you back to us. So on the following slide, you can submit your oath. You must have a oath prior to testing and after testing. Part of this oath ensures that you have received training. Remember that the deadline to sign your form is the first day the window opens. Be sure you've finished this training, you've read the handbook, and you've reviewed all the links. Use the QR code in the presentation or the tiny URL in the presentation to sign the first part of the oath. The second part will be sent out after the window closes. Thanks for watching. Please answer the questions in your form and then submit your answers. You must score at least a 75 to receive credit for this course. Thank you for your time and good luck testing.